Hello and welcome back. This is Chris with Marksman Shooting Sports in Westfield, Indiana, and you are watching Marksman TV. Today I have another tabletop review and comparison of 3 double-stack subcompact 9mm handguns. We have the Glock Model 26 Gen 3. I also have a Gen 4 that I will bring in from comparison from time to time in this video. We have the Smith & Wesson M&P9C and the new HK VP9SK. Like I mentioned, this is a tabletop review. We will start off with an unboxing and then we will move into a point-by-point comparison of the 3. If you're looking into purchasing any one of these 3, it might give you a good reference point to see what are some of the major differences between them. If you've watched our videos before, you are probably familiar with the format, so let's go ahead and jump into it now. Starting off with the Glock 26, we do have a Glock hard case here with 2 latches. I'll go ahead and open those up and flip this around to face you. Here we do have our handgun. We'll go ahead and check that we're clear. It does come with 2 10-round magazines as well as a speed loader. Also, we do have a gun safety lock included and a cleaning brush. There should also be a cleaning rod in here somewhere. Here it is. Here's the cleaning rod. We also have, under this panel, warranty information and instruction information here, and that is it. Now, the Glock 26 Gen 4, which we have here, comes with everything that the Gen 3 comes with, except it does come with 1 additional magazine. Here we have the Smith & Wesson M&P9C, which comes in the Smith & Wesson blue case. You might be familiar with the 2.0 variations of the M&P9 handguns, and they do come in a black hard case. I have another video on those. I'll leave a link here, either in the description or up here on the screen for you. But anyway, we'll go ahead and open this up. I'll flip this around to face you. So here underneath this paper, we do find the handgun. I'll go ahead and pull that to the rear, remove the chamber flag, and check that we're clear. Inserted, we do have 1 12-round magazine with a pinky extension. Also here we do have another 12-round magazine that does not have that pinky extension, so it is flat. Also, there are 2 grip panels. This is the large size, this is the small size. I'll get into that when we talk about the frames. Here we have a gun safety lock, and also under this panel in the top, warranty information and instruction information. Finally, we have the HK VP9SK in this hard plastic case. I'll go ahead and open that up. Flip it around here to face you. Here we have the handgun. I'll go ahead and pull this out. Check that we're clear, and we are. Inserted, we do have 1 flush mounted 10-round magazine. Also included is another 10-round magazine with a pinky extension. And here we have a speed loader. These are the interchangeable back straps. Again, a large and a small size. The medium size is already installed on the gun. And then we also have side panels. So large and small, again, medium is already installed on the gun. Moving into the top portion here is the gun safety lock and instruction information and an H&K sticker. Now let's get into the overall specifications of the 3, starting down here with the HK VP9SK. It is an overall length of 6.61 inches and a height of 4.57 inches. It does have a barrel length of 3.39 inches and an overall weight of 23.07 ounces. The Glock 26 has an overall length of 6.41 inches. It is 4.17 inches tall and does have a barrel length of 3.42 inches and an overall weight of 21.71 ounces. And the M&P9C has an overall length of 6.7 inches, a height of 4.25 inches, a barrel length of 3.5 inches, and an overall weight of 24.7 ounces. In terms of pricing, the Glock and the M&P are going to run you in about the $5 to $550 range respectively, and the HKs are running about $6 to $650 respectively. Now let's talk about the slides, starting here with the HK VP9SK. This is a machined slide, and it does use the hostile environment treatment, which is AK's way of saying melanite or nitride type finish. So bringing this in close, we do see nice slide serrations here at the front and the rear. Of course, up at the front, nice for being able to grip it up at the front to do press checking. And then in the back, these two little wings or notches were added for easy gripping onto the rear, which actually is very effective in my opinion. Here on this side, of course, we see the HK VP9SK roll markings, as well as the caliber roll markings here. Also on the back of the VP9SK, you will see that red little pin there showing. That's an indication that your gun or your striker is armed and ready to fire. Again, if I pull that trigger, what you're going to see is that little pin fall out of the way. That means now that the firearm has fired, and if it's in this position, you know the striker is not armed, and when I pull the trigger, nothing's going to happen. By resetting that striker again, I will see that red fire indicator makes itself present again. Now up at the top, we do see a rear dovetailed and sloped combat sight with a 2-dot configuration. And up at the front, also a dovetailed front sight, which is steel in construction, and it is sloped up here on the front. We will notice an luminescent filler in here on the sight dot, so these will glow in the dark. And also, like I mentioned, they are dovetailed, so both sights are drift adjustable for windage adjustments, but they are not elevation adjustable. So moving over into the Glock. The Glock slide is machined from a single piece of steel bar stock, and they do use the gas nitride finish. Moving it in closer, we do see rear vertical slide serrations here, but nothing up at the front. Now Glock is starting to release certain models. I know they have the Model 17s out that do have front slide serrations. I don't have one of those here to show you, but that is a new feature that they're starting to come out with on their guns. Of course, here we have the Glock and model roll markings, Austria or USA, depending on where it was made in the caliber. Now up at the top, we will see the famous Glock U-dot or horseshoe sight, so you do have a U shape in the back with a single dot up here at the front. Now both of these sights are polymer in construction. The rear sight is dovetailed and is drift adjustable for windage. The front sight is actually screwed in place. There is a hexagonal screw on the underside of the slide, so you can get a Glock tool to remove that and replace it, but it of course is not drift or elevation adjustable. Now moving down into the Smith & Wesson M&P9C, we do have a machined stainless steel slide with Smith & Wesson's Armonite finish applied to it. Bringing it in, we do see fish scaling slide serrations here on the rear, but nothing up front. Well, I guess we do have a little cut notch there, which you could grab onto. I'd be careful of moving my fingers in front of that muzzle, however. On this side, we have the Smith & Wesson logo and the M&P9C roll markings here. Now up at the top, we do have low profile combat sights in a 3-dot configuration, both in the back and in the front. Now these are both dovetailed, so both the front and rear sight are drift adjustable, but they are not adjustable for elevation. Also at the top, we do see a little porthole here, which acts as a loaded chamber indicator. So when you do have a round chambered, you will likely see the brass shining back at you. Of course, you will need daylight. It's kind of a useless feature in the dark, but it's still there in the daylight for any daytime shooting, so that is a little benefit there as well. Now, just for fun, I would be remiss if I did not show the changes that were made in the M&P 2.0. Just real quick, so we do see these fish scaling serrations in the back, and they did add them up here in the front as well. But the sights are pretty much the same with those low profile, drift adjustable steel 3-dot configuration sights. And of course, we still have that porthole up here in the top. Just a little added thing there to show you a difference that has been made in the 2.0. Again, I have a full-length video on this firearm. I will leave a link. Now let's go ahead and talk about the trigger, starting here with the HK VP9SK. Bringing this in close for you, the trigger here is polymer in construction and does have that trigger safety lever here. So keep in mind there is a firing pin block activated when that's in the forward position, also known as a drop safety. So if you do drop this, throw it across the room, hit it on the back with a hammer, do whatever you want to do, it will not fire unless you depress that lever, which will allow you to then pull the trigger through. Now the trigger does fire at about a 5.4 pound trigger weight, so I'll go ahead and do that for you again, very slow. Nice clean break, one more time. Little bit of take up there into a nice clean, you kind of hit that wall right there, you know when you're about to break, pull through, reset, right there. Again, very, very nice trigger. If you're familiar with the original HK VP9, very similar trigger. I think it's the exact same trigger, but phenomenal trigger actually on a striker fired handgun. Moving into the Glock 26, I will go ahead and bring this up closer for you. So the trigger here is also polymer in construction and does have that famous safety lever that we just saw on the HK. Now Glock was not the first one to do this, but I will say they were the first one to make this popular. Trigger pull, of course, anybody who's ever handled a Glock will be familiar. You're going to have some creep and take up there. Some people will argue it's kind of spongy. I actually like the Glock triggers, but anyway, some take up there into a nice clean break. And then our reset will just be a little bit of creep there, and boom, reset. Go ahead and pull again. Trigger weight on this is about 5.5 to 6 pounds. Coming down into the M&P9C trigger, we'll go ahead and bring this in closer for you. So the trigger here is also polymer in construction. It does have that trigger safety, which is actually actuated in a lever configuration. So there is a hinge here in the middle, and it rotates on the hinge point. So the bottom of the trigger will have to be engaged. You see a little notch there that, if left to press, will interface with the inside of the frame, not allowing it to pull through. So by pushing that, it moves that little notch out of the way, allowing the trigger to pull through. Now, the M&P triggers are known by some to be a little bit of gritty, and I'll kind of agree with that. But anyway, you'll have some take up there. It does feel gritty to me. Still a nice trigger. So nice smooth take up into here. We hit that wall, and then a nice clean break. Reset. Right there, actually very short reset. I think a little bit shorter than the Glock, about the same as the VP9. I'll go ahead and pull through again. Nice clean break. This is about 5.5 to 6.5 pounds out of the box. Now let's go ahead and get into the disassembly, starting here with the Glock 26. I will go ahead and remove my magazine and check that I'm clear, and I am. We'll go ahead and pull the trigger, and you'll notice the trigger does stay back to the rear. That's how you know it's disarmed. Now there are 2 takedown notches on either side, one here and one here. What you'll want to do is find a way to creatively, I kind of grab it up here from the top, pull the slide just slightly to the rear. You don't want to go so far back that you reset your striker. Then pull down on those 2 notches. While holding those notches down, go ahead and release the slide and let it come forward. That separates your frame here from your slide. Under here we will find a double guide rod and recoil spring configuration setup. I'll go ahead and remove that. Then the barrel, you can push out from the bottom and extract the barrel. And here you are field stripped. Moving on to the M&P9C, again, we will go ahead and remove our magazine, check that we are clear, and we are. Now there is a takedown lever here, so I will go ahead and lock the slide open to the rear and pull that takedown lever all the way down into the 6 o'clock position. Then release the slide. Now when it drops, I will have to drop the striker, so I will go ahead and hold the slide in place and pull the trigger. That'll release my 2 halves. Here we have a single guide rod and spring. The guide rod is steel in construction. I'll go ahead and pull that out the top. Push out my barrel, and we are field stripped. Now we will finish off with the H&K VP9SK. I will go ahead and drop my magazine. Check that I am clear, and I am. Now on this side we will find a takedown lever just like what we saw on the M&P9C. So I will go ahead and lock the slide open to the rear and then throw that takedown lever into the 6 o'clock position. Then I'll go ahead and carefully drop my slide and then pull the trigger and release the slide off the frame. Here on the underside we will find again a double guide rod and spring setup on the recoil spring. The guide rod is steel in construction. I'll go ahead and remove that out the top and go ahead and extract my barrel the same way I did on the other 2, and we are field stripped. Now let's go ahead and talk about the frames of these 3 handguns. I will start up here with the HK VP9SK. Go ahead and bring this in a little bit closer to you. So the frame here is polymer in construction. Down here in the grip we do have very nice texturing. It's not overly aggressive, so if you are a little bit sensitive to aggressive grip texturing, this will not bother you. There is a nice palm swell here. Remember, this does come with a total of 3 interchangeable back straps. This is the medium size. It comes with a small and a large. So, but that palm swell is perfect and just fits very nicely in the hand. Also, it comes with interchangeable side panels, which you don't typically see on grips or grip systems on different firearms. So again, like we showed you in the unboxing, those panels can be replaced for any of the other 2 sets that come with it. Moving up here, we do have an ambidextrous slide stop release. So we have this lever here on this side. We also have the same lever over here, a little bit different in style, but when I push on that, of course, you will see that moving as well. So kind of a crossbar style. They're met in the middle with a crossbar. So of course, good for left or right-handed shooters to manipulate that slide. Also, the magazine release is a paddle style configuration, which does throw some people off. Again, leaving it to being ambidextrous, so I can push on it. If I'm gripping it with my right hand, I can push on this side with my thumb or this side with my trigger finger. I actually really like that system. It also keeps a button out of the way up here, so if you are carrying in a holster that doesn't quite cover that trigger release button, well, you know that any holster will definitely cover this as long as it's covering your trigger, so a nice feature of that as well. Up here we do have some nice rail space here on the bottom too for mounting any of your favorite laser or light. And then in the top is an embedded steel chassis system, so your guide rails for your slide are steel in construction, so very nice reinforcement there. Your main other components like your ejector, your trigger bar, slide release, any of those parts are also steel in construction, so you do have that durability where it's needed, where the rest of it is polymer, keeping that really nice lightweight feel and weight. Moving into the Glock, now this is the Gen 3. The Gen 3 does have very nice, smooth side plating here and a little recess here for your thumb on either side. You do have a little bit of extra aggressive stippling here on the back and the front at those major points of contact where your fingers rest and where the meat of your palm is resting. So you do have that grip texturing there. Now, a lot of people complain about the Glock in terms of those magazines are those 10-round mags. And I'll insert this for you. So a lot of people complain when they look at these, let me have this refocus, that your pinky falls off the bottom, which it does. Now, these don't come with a Glock, but they can be purchased separately. This is a 12-round magazine with a pinky extension, just like what you get in the M&P and the HK, where you do have that flat magazine configuration, but you can also have that extended magazine configuration, this giving you an extra 2 rounds. Again, these don't come with the firearms. You only get those flat 10-round magazines, but they can be purchased for about 30 to 40 bucks. Continuing on, here is your magazine release button, which does have little serrations on it, and it is polymer in construction. Very nice spring retention pressure there. Now, this is non-reversible, as this is smaller than on this side, so this really is for right-handed shooters only. Or of course, if you're a left-handed shooter, you can shoot it, but you'll need to roll your hand over to get to that magazine release or switch hands to do a mag release, or to do a mag change. Of course, these are your takedown tab levers here. Now, this also has a steel chassis system, so your guide rails are steel. This does have an embedded steel chassis system, so your guide rails up here are steel in construction, and all your major internal components, your ejector, trigger bar, slide stop, lever, all of that is also steel in construction as well. Now, just briefly, I wanted to point to the Glock 26 Gen 4. So the differences are there's more aggressive stippling here on the front and side and back straps. This does come with interchangeable back straps. It comes with, I believe, a total of 6 different panels you can put on here in different sizes. Correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's 6, I need to go look. The magazine release is larger than we saw in the Gen 3. Also, it is reversible, so you can take it out and flip it over to the other side for a left or right-handed shooter. Like we mentioned in the unboxing, it does come with 3 magazines instead of 2. And also, when we saw in the disassembly, the double guide rod and recoil spring system. Now, Glock did use those on the Gen 3s. In what are the baby Glocks, the Glock 26 and 27. The 27 being the same as the 26, but in 40. But in the larger frames, like the 19 and the 17 and the 22, they used a single guide rod and spring. But in the Gen 4s, they use a double guide rod and spring in all of their pistols now. So that's one other addition to going into the Gen 4. And the Gen 4s are going to cost you about 50 bucks more than the Gen 3s will. Finishing up here with the M&P9C, again, polymer frame and construction. We do have our magazine release here is polymer and kind of a teardrop shape. It is reversible, so it can be moved to the other side for a left-handed shooter. The grip texturing is very nice. You do have semi-aggressive texturing here on the swell on the back strap and up here at the front with smooth on either side. It's not overly aggressive though, it's barely noticeable, but it's just a little bit of a rougher texture there. Now remember, these back straps are interchangeable. This is the medium size. It also comes with a large and a small, so you can customize that to the shooter who's using the gun at any particular time. You just twist this little knob here at the bottom, and it's just kind of hard to do from this angle, but you'll twist that knob and pull it out, and that'll bring out the retaining pin that's sitting up here underneath the back strap. You can then pop that off, put on your new one, put the pin back in, rotate it back to lock, and you are good to go. Also, there is a little rail space up here at the front, and it also does have an embedded steel chassis, so your little guide rails up here at the front for the slide are steel in construction, and all your major components, your ejector, trigger bar, slide release, any of that stuff, also steel in construction as well. So you do have that extra reinforcement where it's needed while keeping that overall lightweight of the polymer gun. Bringing that 2.0 back out, we do have more aggressive texturing here on the grip, more of that sandpapery or talon or pierce wraparound grip type texture. It does now come with 4 interchangeable back straps, a large, medium, and a small. So you have that customization there. They did have these little cuts up here at the front. And also one thing that they did change is they added a little clip here on the slide release. So there's a leaf spring in there that locks into the slide release so that the slide can't slant forward or anything when you pop in a magazine too aggressively or anything like that. You do need positive manipulation on the slide release to drop the slide, which is just a little bit of an added benefit to you. Now let's go ahead and finish up here with the barrel, starting up here with the HK VP9SK. This is a barrel length of 3.39 inches. This is a cold hammer forged barrel, and it does have that hostile environment treatment that we saw on the slide. Bringing this in, there is very nice polishing up here on the feed ramp, and it does have a 1 in 10 twist. Moving on down to the M&P9C, this is a barrel length of 3.5 inches, and this is a machined stainless steel barrel with an armonite finish. And it also has a very nicely machined, very nicely polished, feed ramp here. And it is also a 1 in 10 right-hand twist. The Glock 26 barrel is 3.42 inches. It is also machined and does have the gas nitride finish. Again, gas nitride, armonite, and the hostile environment treatment are 3 separate words used by 3 separate companies, generally meaning the same thing, which is a melanite treatment. Same thing with the slides. Just for copyright purposes, they have to call it something different. But they are generally the same process. So Glock barrels traditionally and famously use the polygonal rifling. Polygonal rifling, instead of using lands and grooves like traditional rifling we see in here, it uses hills and valleys. So it does have sloping lands, which is good for not compromising on the barrel thickness in each one of the grooves. Also, it creates a better gas seal, and also leads itself to less bullet deformation as the projectile is moving through the barrel, which increases the barrel life and also reduces the buildup of copper within the lands and the grooves themselves. We don't see any of that type of polishing here on the feed ramp, but apparently Glocks are very reliable, so apparently that has not led itself to any type of really feeding issues. If you want to, though, I know some people have, you can go back and polish that yourself if you just want to increase a little bit, I guess, peace of mind. But in my experience, and I've shot a lot of Glocks, I'm a Glock owner myself, I haven't really noticed any feeding issues as a result of that. Well, anyway, guys, that is all the time I have for you today on these. I really hope you enjoyed that. If you did, please consider hitting that like button for me. If you have any questions, please leave those down in the comment section. I will try to address as many of those as I can. Also, if you enjoyed this and want to see other content like this, please subscribe to our channel. We do post comparison videos like this very often. Again, guys, thank you so much. This is Chris with Marksman Shooting Sports in Westfield, Indiana. You are watching Marksman TV. We will see you next time.